And we know what Jesus was when he was a man on earth. What was his profession? Was he a doctor?
Carpenter.
He was a heavenly doctor, but what was Jesus' work?
Carpenter.
But that's his heaven. But when he was a man on earth,
Panday to si Lord
he was a
Jesus.
Jesus
Panday to
was
siya.
a carpenter. Because we know Jesus is the foundation. But also the builder. Without us, without the carpenters, the workers, there's no building. Without Jesus, there's no building, heavenly building for us. And then once though I became, and Jesus came in, and it's like, oh, Jesus, please forgive me for my sins. I could feel right away, boom, the God coming in me. And so it's no longer me. I feel me in there because I'd rather go steal a chicken and have a dinner. I would rather. Oh, that's better probably. Hello, everybody. You won't be surprised in Claude. It didn't help all the way, but we have the time switch here. And I was like, oh, good. It'll get darker earlier tonight, so I'll work. And then, because I got some stuff here from the nursery to get going. And so, man, it's just going and going time-wise. And I look and it's like, oopsie. It was spring forward means we have more light at night. So it was like 6:30 before I actually saw, and then I had to clean up stuff, which I haven't totally cleaned everything up because I knew, Claude, you'd be waiting. So that is part of the excuse. We'll be going later start times now with spring and summer coming. So that's a little bookkeeping here. I'll turn the camera on real quick because I just came right out. I don't want to blind anybody. Knows the camera is that thing with a box with thing. I turned off my mic instead. You can tell this is going to be a good night. Oh, a normal damn night. There. So I had my straw hat on in the sun outside, and I wanted to make sure people saw me. Actually, I could see myself, so in case I fell asleep or something. But anyway, we're not too proud here. of look. So I just had a great day today. We listened to the service because you can kind of tell I'm still plugged up, and I went to a couple Bible studies last week in the evenings, and I got worse. So no, let's take a day off again and just hang around here, which we did. So, Mr. Christian Pike, how are you doing? Going to do some more, just looking at some cool things that show design. And here, and it's I don't know if I got the positive or the negative. Yeah, you know, like, oh, you have the positive, you got to show me stuff. All I got to do is show design, complex design that's like out of this world. Oh yeah, that's what we call the intelligent designer, out of time, space, and matter. And when we do that, that's evidence. Now you might not take it as evidence, just like I don't take well, the evolutionists. Well, maybe it happened in a little mud pond, or maybe it happened, in first life. Maybe first life was. See, I'm talking biology now. First life was in a mud hut somewhere, and yeah, kind of like, oh, here we had Sonoma County. We had the missions, which was a system of missions the Spanish set up, probably in the 1800s. I should know my California history. Luckily, my mom's passed, or I would have killed her. She would have dropped over dead. She was really into California history. And a teacher, and she tried with me. She really tried, guys. I mean, just think how stupid I'd be if I didn't have a teacher with as a mother who would, bring out the old 1940s or 50s books. See that I can't even say it, let alone read it. See Spot Run, or see something. Anyway, yeah, she tried. Once I got second or third grade, she was like, "Oh well, he smiles a lot," and that was all I needed with mom and a lot of the teachers. And anyway, oh, I was gonna. Did I put the link out? Let me invite guests. Now remember, you're a guest, so I can kick you out if I want. I can abort you. If you come on my show and I change my mind, I can abort you. Anyway, let's set this out here, and I'll try. Hello, Matthew. Had a real cool time last night. Again, late. We had some Mormons. Really, really. Unlike the Proverbs guys, they can actually talk good. And one was I think he sounds like he was from Vietnam. He's a Vietnamese guy. Definitely sound like he English was his second language, and of course he did better than me. Anyway, did I do that? Did I post? I did post. So yeah, come on, anyone who wants to come in and chat and help me out. I'll start out, just I always want to start out, thanking God, and whether you believe in Him or not, you can thank your fairy mother Darwin, who you have faith in. I have a faith in somebody outside time, space, and matter. And if you do believe in the spaghetti monster or some magic man in the sky, I guess you want to thank them. But my creator, designer, had to be outside of time, space, and matter because of the fact that what caused something had to be outside that same something. So yeah, Rich from Proverbs Guys had a great chat with Mark Reed, who he had a little, I think they call it a debate, but both of them too would rather just chat. And that was mostly what it is. What I saw was just great. But again, Mark went into well, it could have been this. Well, have you figured that it might, because they were talking about, I believe, cosmology, if not the Big Bang itself, the original coming forth of the universe. And so, as soon as they start going, well, it might have been this, might have been that, then that's not science. And then you are, if we say in your language, you're just doing circular reasoning outside of science, because we use a book. And although my book, it's a bad translation, it's a library of books written over 1,500 years. So no, it's 1,500 years. And therefore, it's not just going to one source. It's not a circular reasoning when, come on, guys, you got to agree with me that somebody wrote something 1,500 years ago, about 500 AD. They wrote the first books, and then today they're ending up to the last book, and they all have the same thread through. And you'd have to think, those are different books, different sources. Hello, Claude. Mark, read one easily. What was the name of the debate? Because as soon as, like I say, and it might not have been part of the debate, so it might have been, I don't know the title of the debate, and that's the thing. Oh, he won the debate on do we drink milk or tea? And but do you really win the truth contest? And as you start using, sorry, Claude, when you start using it could have been this, it could have been that, you lost. And well, you lost the scientific, you lost the rational thing, because the evidence we see, and again, when he said you couldn't go outside of the material universe to explain a cause, okay, you lost right there. Because what if the cause is outside of the natural universe? And ding, 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 ding. I saw that on a movie somewhere. It was a kooky guy, so you guys probably imagine it was. Probably shouldn't put that. Okay, so Claude, very good. It was on of course, it was on my channel, but if you guys haven't figured out yet, I don't read much. I wait for the video to come out, and so I got in there later on. It was after, I think it was during Richard's introduction, or his second, whatever, or his third, before his second or after his fourth, in the debate structure. And so no, I didn't see the title exactly what it is, because even last night, Claude, if you saw any of the debate, it was more conversation with the Mormons. It was the Trinity, something about the Trinity, and we went off on rabbit trails because it was more of a conversation. So that you guys should look on up. And we had somebody come in and like, what is this about? Because we were off subject at that time, probably when I joined the panel. So I was also on Mark's channel. What? Yes, I heard that, because that was a bummer, because I didn't. You guys know I love communicating in the chats, and that makes fun. So I was like, oh, bummer. I want to see, because believe it or not, I do, and that's why we are having the Mormons on, because I want to see what they believe, and that's why I like people not to talk over people, because I pretty well know what my friends believe. So you guys shut up, because I want to hear what they believe. We can go against it. We can say how we think they're wrong, but let them get it out. I love being able to put this up on the screen. And because I'm going to go in and do a little video thing, and of course, that doesn't always work out well for me when no sound or something. I have to go away for an hour. Claude, I did not give you permission, because all I'm thinking is some awesome Asian cuisine that I can't have right now. Although, wife, you guys have something, Xiao Pao. Man, I get those backwards. But it's this cool little thing. It's a little rice paper, cute. Well, it's not cute. It's kind of a little teeny round thing. It looks like a donut hole. And it's got, it has pineapple, or not pineapple. Might have pineapple. But what it has that I really like is the little teeny bamboo shoots. chopped up and some meat stuff. I don't want to know what kind of meat it is, but it's good. Well, you're excused for an hour. I will then probably shut down and then come back in an hour. No, I'm going to still go, but you'll miss so much, Claude. And I know it's my fault. You were here. Next time you should know, don't schedule anything on your Monday morning. Because I think, are you still in Singapore? Because then that would be, I was here. I know, I already said that. So I said that before you said that, Claude. So yes, that was, I confronted the evil within me for being late. And no excuses. No excuses. No excuses. All right, Claude. Don't have too much fun. Singapore time. Yes, Claude, like I tell people, you're the only one I can batter with, I can spar with, because, you take them and say them right back. You don't get offended by 60s or 70s batter and banner. What is that called? Our sparring back in the day. If we got together, we would probably say stuff that neither of us really care, but we would probably, if somebody hurt us, we would be canceled because yeah, we I don't know how we survived. We didn't. I don't know, Claude, did you have a shrink back in your early teens, preteens, when somebody called you, or you were calling them, retarded, and all those words that we can't say now because they're insensitive? Dang. Shouldn't there be some fund, Claude? Should be some UN fund that you and I, who were so abused as children because people called us retarded, they called us all kinds of things. I don't know how many WAP jokes I heard. I don't know how many Dago, that rabbit trail. I have a friend. This is California. Last name is Day, and so he owns trucking company, and he would his license plate was Dago Trucking, and California took back his license plates. So you can't have that. That's and it's like, oh my gosh, that's where, and that was maybe 20 years ago. So we already knew we should have protested right then. We should have shut down. We should have protested the DMV that I should be able to say WAP or Dago on about myself if I want to. Lord knows my mom told us. She told us we were no good WAPs, and she had no Italian in her. But that was a funny thing because the only black race to my grandfather, who was German and whatever else he was, not Italian. He said the only black race in the world is the Italians, and so of course, my mom was his, only daughter, and so she went out and got herself a whop and a half. My dad was right out of the Occidental Hills here, second generation, and yeah. But a smart guy. I've never known a smarter guy that really could figure things out. What's up? Hello. Okay, hurry, run. You've got an hour. I'm clock is running, Claude. And then at least you can turn your camera on, and do watch out, Claude, because this even looks. You can turn the camera on, and somebody's like on another channel, not ours. Oh, you should show. We want to see what Claude looks like. So don't do that to somebody. Man, it'd probably break our screens anyway. Anyhow, as you guys know, I have too much fun with life. Okay, go away, Claude. I don't like you anyway. Yes, no, that's the kind of things I can say to him. I could say that all kinds of things, but I won't, because we're still too close into the nanny state that if come on, guys. Come on. So we're gonna have a great show tonight, I think. It's always great because I can put stuff up but some stuff on design. And as a biblical 6-day, 7-day creation believing Christian, I only have to show evidence that there's something that can't be done naturally. A design that is so complex, so many layers to it, that the best explanation for that cause is something outside time, space, and matter, an intelligence, something with, and we show just the thing of the DNA. And it's like, oh, well, it's a billion years. Well, we have, so it's 13 billion years, but we have trillions of different DNA things. And so it wouldn't have been 13 billion, but the first life, don't give me numbers. I don't like that. Is that you'd have to have so much new and novel information to every genome out there, every DNA. Why did it stop? Why is it there? Why is it when we put that? What a great segue. I didn't even think of that, but if I find it, it was really cool. It was a meme today, and I thought it was quite witty. If you disagree, you're banned for life. All right, so we'll hit this, and there's no sound, so I don't have to worry about that. Going to share that. Uh-oh. Oh, I was inviting people, so I'm not going to share that yet. Where are we? Uh-oh. There it be. I had it all ready, and then I was sharing the fact that I was going live with people. So check this out. It's a cute little thing, but the pictures themselves, because I'm not too much into, I love memes, but it's like, it's somebody's, again, their impressions. But you look at this, and if I find the right spot, and let's add that to the screen. Uh-oh, how do I make it bigger? Hope you guys can see it. Where are we? We want you to be. We want you, babe. Okay, so here we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay, hopefully you guys can see it. Sorry. Claude could be a supermodel for all we know. Not with that voice. There's not enough plastic surgery that could take that voice and make it a supermodel. That in the definition of supermodel, maybe the new type of supermodel, the kind of overweight, and we won't go there. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Wait a minute. I'm trying to hide this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to try to make that bigger. I will not guarantee, but it's showing different mutations. Hopefully you guys can see it on a phone. It might be tough. Oh, I think up here. Where's the little... Oh, there it is. Let's see. I thought that was a magnifying glass. It's not. Shoot. Anyway, I think it's this one. Try to magnify it for you. This is why I need a tech guy, but I get there too late. Oh, check that out. Oh, this guy. I don't need no... Uh-oh. I went too far. Let me see. That's a problem. Then I have to go back there. We are live. That's a little bigger. So, you see the mutations. And again, I put out the call for people to, show me your mutations, because from the beginning of first life, which you'd imagine, wouldn't the DNA have had to been like a fraction of what you'd think abiogenesis created a first life with, a couple billion base pairs in its DNA. I would think it would have to be. Even the 200 that they have said and estimated that had to have spontaneously come around to actually make life, because you have to have living, breeding energy consuming and using creature. And so you had to have a lot. Where were we? I'm missing some of them. So the bird, I had a bird like that. The beak was over. But is that a mutation? Or see, and that's the other thing is when people say mutations, is it a mutation or is it just something in the genetics? A couple of poor little guys. So you can see when, and we have this in naturalistic human creative stuff. When you're making stuff, then that's why you have quality control. Humans have quality control to make sure that things are coming out the end of the assembly line the way they're supposed to. And look at these things, and it's how do we do? And if you can't see it much, there's can't see those guys at all. Little cow with, I think, legs going over its back. Two-headed animals, one-eyed, two-headed. I don't know if the alligator. They have an albino, but probably get sunburned. It wouldn't like it. A snake with a couple heads, a cat with one eye again, and that chicken beak and little turtle. Yeah. So we got to think though in our little design studio here is how do you do that? How do you design something and not have these things happen? Because novelly predicted in the Bible, things were made perfectly to start, made perfectly complex to start with, and through time, they have either mutated or got worse. And we look at that and we look at these pictures, it's like, yeah, this is not something that is getting better and better. But then again, this is 5%. 5% of mutations are deleterious. Is that the right word? They're bad. 5% are positive or good for the species survival, and 90% estimated as being just neutral mutations. Don't do anything, but they just sit there. But they do something because they clog up, because 90% of the mutations, and we're getting mutations all the time, is harmful for us. And so you're building, and then you can do the same thing as a creationist. We'll say, well, it used to be good, now it's bad. You can say, yeah, it was great. It was, the first life was awesome and it kept on going. But then it's like, no, you guys could say that, but then you might as well just go with the intelligent designer because you believe, as Richard Dawkins said, that, nature is a horrible thing. Nature doesn't care. It doesn't care how many eyes you have. It doesn't matter how long you live. Nature just pops stuff out. Now, the natural selection is a force used and who Darwin actually came up with. Kudos to Darwin. But that doesn't do anything. It does not create anything. It selects what has been created. So you're going to go, wow, yeah, so that's where we get all these, small little incremental mutations. Somebody said random day. Is Robin here yet? I saw, and actually I think it was on this site here, they were talking that the mutations are random, and actually somebody on this site, because I did my same question, give me these mutations, guys, come on now, because I'm still at the point where there's I don't know how many bacteria. See, those were positive mutations that helped the little bacteria survive better. Lactose, I like my milk, so I like the cow's milk, I like goat's milk, so lactose tolerance mutation, they say in Europe somewhere. Love that one. And then it went through the genome. That is kind of interesting because, that would mean that everybody came from those people that first got that mutation that are lactose tolerant now. And it's like, really? Might that have just been in the genome? A gene that was turned off for some reason in everybody, or it was there and could be turned on. And you gotta say, is like, oh, so you're taking on faith, even the good mutations. Then of course, this is one I don't know. If there was a God, he would have given everybody the mutations of HIV/AIDS, because that's a positive mutation. Because if you have HIV/AIDS, you're probably less likely to have West Nile virus. And I'm so scared of West Nile virus. If there was a God, I'm sure he would have given me HIV/AIDS, so I wouldn't have to be scared of West Nile virus. And then actually they used on this list of 20, I didn't look them up yet, but I can't wait, of 20 of these mutations, and one of them was the sickle cell anemia. They didn't put it that way. They put it in the scientific terms, that these cells were mutated so that you couldn't get malaria. It's called sickle cell anemia. Malaria has to go in. At this point, it might mutate itself. Still a little bad bug, not into a different type of creature, but why would we want it? That went into a community in Africa. So yeah, they're not going to be as susceptible to malaria. But if you have babies with another person with sickle cell anemia, they're either going to die or they're going to have problems. Something is like, really? Really, guys? That's positive? But like I said, this one had 20. We'll see. Out of the trillions upon trillions of mutations needed, we've come up with 20 now from somebody. Woohoo! I think I might start believing in godless evolution. Or the God evolution, that God just kind of put the terrible system of biology out there, survival of the fittest. Anyway, so that was cool. I like, and so this interesting one for me. But again, this only proves that there is evidence against Darwin's theory, and then the addition with the genetics to Darwin's theory, because actually pretty much all he had was natural selection, but then the genetic part of it that came out with that the 40s or 30s, 40s or 50s, something like that. We have a lot out there we don't know that really doesn't seem to explain the possibility of the biological system. They would tell us. Okay, so what else? Oh, let me see this. I will head there. Okay, so I did have, I just looked up Nature Shows Intelligent Design, and I was going to go through one or two, and anybody wants to come by and actually look at it with me. This is going to just be a live, hopefully, if I get it working properly. I should look it on my phone, make sure I got volume. Too much stuff here. Too much to deal with. Wow. Proverbs Guys is live right now. Oh no, that's not it. That was last night's. Oh no, that's not it. There I am. You guys are probably going to get some feedback. So, not sorry about that. Hi, Robin. You are there. I didn't see you. Sorry you're late. I was later. Well, I wasn't later, but I just started a bit ago. Phantom. You have an overweight voice, Claude. I'm right. Yep, he does. He's probably this, dyslexic, skinny, French dude. But oh, Rich is here. Rich, come on. Oh, that's okay. Anyhow, I was going to go over, and then you guys can tell me then if you hear this. We'll dump the good old meme, and as you can see, I didn't change out of the work shirt, and or my jail shirt. See, but it's not. You can see that, and that. Whoa, that's a top name. Is it? Wells. I think that's a good brand here. Anyhow, how'd that happen? Okay, so let's see about critiquing a show on intelligent design. Boom, we'll share that. Oh, cool. Must have been an update. I can see myself now in a little screen. Doesn't mean it's working. Oh, wait a minute. That's not good because I didn't add it to the screen. Okay. Wow, I'm glad I saw that because I wouldn't have seen you guys' comments. Richard, help me out here. Okay, let's put him up there. So I just picked out, like I said, it was creation stuff that shows. Yeah, I just typed in nature shows intelligent design. So there's good old Myers, Dr. Myers, and reminds me of Oscar Myers. Anyhow, oh, there's actually a intelligent design paradox. I don't think that we should see that one too, because is there intelligent design that shows there is no intelligent design? And let's see this one. Okay, I am not hearing anything. You guys hearing anything? Probably because they usually start out mute. And if I'm not hearing it, I'm pretty sure you're not hearing it. Where's the mutesy thing? Oh, there it is. Wait. Okay. Well, that was a short. I thought it was longer. But anyway, we can critique this one. So this is kind of basic. Okay, theories, OMW. Oh, well, we'll get to that. Sorry, that could have been with that last little segment there. If you were on here, then you could have done it because that was great. Richard was saying there has never been an observed beneficial mutation. Okay. I would agree with that in that, again, we'd have to have trillions of them. So even if there was a few of them, that seems like an awful hard faith to get behind. I just don't have enough faith to believe, even if there's 20 they tell you, especially, come on, Richard, don't you want HIV AIDS so you don't have to be petrified about getting West Nile virus? And can we even get sickle cell anemia? Because, I don't want to get malaria. So wouldn't that be a good trade-off? If I can get some sickle cell anemia, that was a positive mutation, they said. Okay, I'm a little skeptical. Now, our video here, did
What's
we
up,
hear
man?
it? Hey, how's it going?
Going all right, man. Hold on.
That
I
was
started talking. My dog's making noise.
good. Maxine will Maxine, you see the doggy? Maxine, where's the doggy? Where? Come on. It's right up here.
Literally, who's that? Who's that?
She's ignoring it. I think I'm training her because she'll see
Yeah,
him on
they're
the
just
TV.
barking at nothing.
Oh well, she usually that'll put her hackles up. How come you're not in view? There
Hey,
you are.
who's
Hey,
that?
brother. Oh my God. Oh, that's not my.
Who's that? Shh.
Right here.
I forget. I'm in an RV park and it's 11 o'clock at night. I can't let them park. Make that much noise.
Oh, yes. So that looks
Hey,
like
God
home.
is doing amazing things today, brother.
What's that?
I just went to a church with um, my neighbor, and really small church. Like they're being held in a conference room of a hotel. Like I think 13 people, including myself, were there today. But he's gonna let me speak next week at their church. So God's
Oh,
doing something. Another door open. So
no,
really
that's the
small.
fun thing. And how many coincidences and um, coincidence does there have to be? And when I again, in our little church group, and and it was just something dumb because we were like praying, thanking God for stuff. And one guy was like, I lost my keys. I He needed them. He's an insurance agent, so pretty important to have your keys. He thought, looked all over the place, checked out his office, and then he's like, "Oh, I should just pray." Lord doesn't have any he no restrictions. It's like whatever's important to us, his little children, his loved adopted children, he wants to hear. And so he prayed. He goes to his office again, not even thinking about it, and they were just sitting right on this couch thing he had. And he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then, which that okay, the coincidence, sure, that was going to happen anyway. I had the same thing happen because Philip he's like, um, it's actually not scary, but that thing of awe inspiring and fearing of the Lord, because I mean, come on, I'm a Christian daddy, so if he's upset about losing something, and it's like, come on, let's pray about it. And do I ever pray about losing? No, I'm too important. God doesn't want to listen to my prayers. And it's like repeatedly he'll find the stuff. Repeatedly he says a prayer, and not with like, okay, 3 months later. It's like within a short amount of time, and I'm sitting and go, oh my gosh, here I've taught him and I've taught him that, and it's more just out of oh yeah, that's what a Christian daddy says. And then one time, then I was like, me, I had, my key fob thing for the truck is like $500 programmed, and so it's like I was missing it, and it's like, you know what? I was kind of getting frustrated, but at the same time, it's like I lose everything, so I'm kind of past getting frustrated for things that I lose, and it's like, why don't I pray about it? I pray about it, and it was within a few hours. I was getting in my truck, nothing about the keys anymore, and I moved a little. I think Maxine has a little mat in the back of the truck. The keys were under the mat in the back of the truck, in my extended cab, whatever that back seat. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, there is, and that's just one. And like, oh, that's silly. And it's like, you know, when it's, and again, for me, as been saved since the 80s, following God, trying to follow God, trying to, follow the spirit that he put inside of me. And it's like, I don't know about you, you get to the point, it's like, I'm not going to bug God with something stupid like a key that I shouldn't have lost to begin with. And it's like, no, God wants everything. And he shows us everything. He shows us in the little teeny things. But so I mentioned mine in that same Bible study. A third guy said, oh my gosh, I lost my keys. And again, how to just like, oh well. And this is something men won't talk about, because it's like, you're going to actually ask God to help you find your keys. A third guy had lost his keys. Search, search, search. And then goes, oh, I'll pray for it, and found it. And it's like, no, guys, your coincidences, but then again, and Rich, your debate that was great with Mark,
Thank you.
and oh, welcome somebody. But your debate with Mark, and when they get to the whole thing of, well, it might have been this. Well, did you think that, that the quantum, this thing, and whatever, and but that's still part of material universe, time,
Yeah,
space, matter,
quantum
energy.
fluctuations. Yeah, it's already existing in this
That is
universe. That's already a part of
still
it.
it's still inside the universe. And so,
Yeah.
but as soon as he did that, and of course, and we do that as Christians sometimes, we'll get to a corner. And I know you said one time, and right after this, I'll breathe right now. Welcome, Eastern
Can we
Yes,
just call him ET?
sure.
HT.
Elliot.
I was hoping he'd say something like that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Praise God.
So
Well, it's
this,
been.
Good to have you.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, yes, you're.
I was just gonna say. So this stream is on intelligent design. Are you familiar with Saint Thomas Aquinas's fourth way to prove the existence of God?
I am
That
not.
name keeps coming up.
Yeah. Well, that is one of that really ties into what um, the intelligent design argument is, except I think St. Thomas really puts his finger on the pulse. St. Thomas, basically taking from Aristotle, talks about teleology, which is basically the study of ends. So, just kind of like how soteriology is the study of salvation, teleology is the study of the ends of something. What is something? What is the final cause or the final result that something is ultimately headed towards? And he says essentially that every creature naturally has a perfect end, not including deprivation of goods. Every creature has a naturally perfect end. And he says that the evidence of that is ultimately evidence of, or that result is ultimately evidence of an intellect. And he uses the example of an arrow being pointed at a dart. He says in order for an arrow to get towards a dart, or towards a target, there has to be someone pointing and arranging the arrow, and there has to be some intellect behind that. And so that was actually, now that I think about it, I think that's actually the fifth way. I think I confused the fourth way with the fifth way, to prove the
Well,
existence.
do you know what he meant by a perfect end?
So by a
I
perfect
mean,
end, he meant that
like a cow becoming a cheeseburger is a perfect end, if you ask me.
well, what he meant by a perfect end is essentially that creatures are essentially built towards a result that is perfect in nature. Um, now, creatures, or the ultimate cause or the ultimate thing that creatures are achieving is this perfect result or this perfect kind of goal that they're attempting to get. Now, obviously, there are what we call the privation of goods, and that wouldn't be included in that. But the privation of goods is something that's completely separate from that, because it involves not a separate substance, but merely the lack of a substance. So, for example, if somebody says, "Oh, well, I got diagnosed with cancer," well, cancer is not a perfect end; that's a privation of good. So, a person who developed cancer would be naturally understood to have an end, or not have an end, but ultimately have developed something that is contrary to their natural end.
Hmm.
And so that's essentially the basis of how he describes it.
Well, I think death in general shows intelligent design. I know it could sound contradicting, but from this point of view, if conscious over took 13.8 billion years for life to evolve, wouldn't the first thing it'd figure out is how not to die? I know they come back with the whole, oh, death is a part of evolution because without death, it wouldn't be striving to live. But if you're alive and you figure that out, why would it need to die in the first place? Why would it just end? I mean, if all that added up after 14 billion years just to not exist after what at most 120 years, it just doesn't make any sense.
We
Um,
did that show one time on the oh gosh, it's cute little guy, but it's microscopic almost. So you and they said they found it out in space. It can shut itself down to almost a state of death, and as soon as then it because it can dehydrate itself, it can keep. There showed what system did it. It's dang it, it looked like little teddy bears under the microscope, and they're saying that there's something that has learned, and as I love the evolution talk, they learned how to shut their systems all down if the environment is too stressful for them. So they can go out into space. They just like are in a state of almost like whatever bears do, they hibernation.
Hibernation, yeah.
And it really interesting, but exactly that, Richard, is that why not? Why do we die? A lot of people say it's because there's so many mutations going on in our bodies that it just clogs up the cells. Saw one, and it's a Harvard, and it was real cute. And I think I even showed it here where let me get it right. Kinesis, I believe. It's where you have inside the cell, and then of course you have to get something from the nucleus to any point in the cell, and so and other places too. And let's take example, there's the recycle bin inside of the cell, the little machine. So then, but it's floating out there in cell space, and it has the microtubules then inside the cell that make these roads connecting themselves. And so it's like, oh, we got junk, we're going to take it. And they've got these little walker machines that walk on, they'll latch on to see on this regard to be something junk, something that, some protein or something that is no longer working. And the little protein guy will latch onto it, and this road, the microtubules, will form in front of it. And then he'll walk to wherever it is, dump it off into there. The recycle puts it back into its basic parts. And it's just amazing the design inside there. But then you'll say, it's like, oh, wow, how come our cell isn't filled up with all these roads? Well, for not one reason, there's not enough of those building blocks inside the cell. And if they did, it would clog them up. So it'll, somewhere in there, there's we would say some kind of brain that says, okay, now we need this piece of junk going there. Oh, now we need a little protein for the power plant, and we'll need that to go there. And so these microtubules will just go back into their basic um, floating little pieces, and then they'll reorganize themselves if they have, then something needs to go to the cell wall in just one degree difference. So it recreates itself now from the nucleus or wherever, maybe just 1 degree off. So it has to go to a cell wall, and then that thing goes away, and then they might have to go to the cell wall just 45 degrees the other direction. And then so these things form themselves, and then you have the motor proteins, or what they're called. Kinesin, I think, goes one direction, and there's another guy goes a different direction. And it's just amazing. And they're going, no, this just happened by random mutations
Well, yeah,
and undirected mutations.
we have no control over those things, right? It's like our heartbeat and our digestive system and all those little things running around in our bodies. We have no conscious control of that. How does it? I mean, are they like little life forms themselves putting it together? Like, how does all that function?
In
And we can
every
just sit here and
cell,
have this conversation, and it just does it on its own.
in
How did that
every,
evolve? I mean, did we
and
at
that's
one point evolve the conscious ability to turn our heart off, and then we died, and then somebody else said, "Oh, we." got to have that subconsciously and not have control of it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And then, so even, and okay, well, we're this highly advanced machine with many machines inside of us, but it started out that just this simple little guy. But then again, it's like, okay, so you have to have a undirected mutation, and say like with your like that with our automatic heart beating. Um, but that takes a lot. That takes and let's go something that's really easily the eyeball. So you have what, billions of the light sensitive cells in there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
millions.
you millions. And you look at that, it's like, well, how does that happen gradually? How do you do that? Or the little I think I have that the rotary motor in the flagellum motor in the bacteria. And guys, without the 40 some parts, it's not going to move the little bacteria, and it has to be put together in just the right order. So if your undirected mutation, let's say it just started and it just put on one little gear, it's not going to do anything except for clog up the cell. And then they go, oh well, those those parts are in other places, and maybe the random unguided mutation, it might have just made all these parts that didn't need, and then all of a sudden down the line it's like, whoa, if they accidentally all come together, or another unguided mutation puts them into the DNA, into the creation part of the factory of the DNA, then that little flagellum motor, 45 parts, using I think it's electrons as power coming through the cell wall, that generates a little power. And it's like, guys, it makes my head hurt trying to design something like that by myself, and or bringing somebody like you in, or somebody else who knows stuff. How are we going to do that? How
Right.
are we going to do that microscopically? And like, come on, guys, you throwing in nature and unguided mutations, that's more problems, not making it. That's the solution. And what do you guys think?
Well, I know a lot of atheists, the way they'll respond to this, or they'll respond to the argument from teleology, or they'll respond to the cosmological argument, is they'll try to take more of a nominalistic approach. Ever since David Hume, and I talked about this on Jamie's show, ever since David Hume, nominalism has become more and more and more popular amongst atheists and a lot of sects, unfortunately, in modern quote unquote science. A lot of secular scientists have tried to kind of push on nominalism because it's a very easy way to justify hyper empiricalism. But what St. Thomas says, kind of responding to William of Ockham and sort of, foreseeing future problems from people who would take on nominalistic arguments, is under nominalism, science just completely collapses because the idea is every creature, every object ultimately has some sort of nature or some sort of function or some sort of end, or some sort of qualities that are inherently adhere to said object. For example, a dog wags its tail. It's simply in a dog's nature to do that. When you think of a dog, that's just one of the inherent, innate concepts that belongs to a dog inherently. A nominalist will say, "Oh no, 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 that's not inherent to a dog. We just observe that consistently about a dog, and so we just kind of put that name on a dog, this idea of tail wagging. That's something that we just put on a dog. That's just a name we put on a dog, and whatnot." For me, it just clearly doesn't make any sense. But I think it's a get out of jail card for a lot of atheists, which is how they try to wiggle their way out of this argument, unfortunately. And I see Jamie's comment. Nominalism basically just means objects do not have inherent natures. There are not intrinsic qualities to really anything in nature. We observe consistently things that are associated with certain objects, but we just put names on those objects to kind of identify them with the concepts that we observe. That's basically what nominalism is. The word nominal is basically just a Latin word for name. So it's basically just nameism. That's basically what it is.
Doesn't nominal mean like as good as it can be or something like that?
Sorry, I was muted there. It can mean that, but I know the original Latin word. I am studying Latin right now.
Awesome.
The original Latin word was name. And so when William of Ockham started talking about it, William of Ockham is kind of known as the guy that sort of started nominalism. When he was introducing nominalism, he was that kind of his ideology got associated with that title because because he was basically just saying put names on everything. There's no universal concepts, no universal attributes. And so people just call it nominalism because he was just saying things that we observe or intelligent design is just things that we put names on to identify concepts in our mind.
So now, yeah, because I love that when someone goes, "Oh, the Bible says that whales are fish, but they're mammals," and it's like, well, yeah, but the word, the words for animals and stuff, the classifications, happened, only a few centuries ago, right? Millennium ago. So yeah, that it's again to be able to define things and also to put it in context is that it was something that swam in the ocean. Let's call that fish. And somebody later on goes, well, let's separate the fish from mammals characteristics instead of something that swims in the water with fins. Let's classify them more on how they breed, um, how they live, mammal, non-mammal, that good stuff. So that is an interesting concept, and that's what I love about life. Is there's so many. That's why I love talking with the Mormon guys because it's been like 30 years since I really got into an in-depth study of what their beliefs are, and so it's all in definitions. It's all we all have faith in something, and that's what I love about. What do you think about that, Eastern? That's like, oh, we don't have faith; we believe the science, and then the science is always, by definition, is just information. So what does it? Then
Yeah,
yeah, and it's like you're believing in science, or you're believing in the science, but it's not faith. But science changes, so therefore you have to have faith that the I don't know, it's like woo. Um,
right. Well, and St. Thomas does talk about that. That's one of the very first things that he talks in his about in his masterwork, the Summa Theologica, is the way he kind of structures the Summa is he doesn't write it like a college essay, like here's my opinion, here's why you should believe it. What he does is he'll write down objections that the opposite person might bring up, and then he answers them. And so one of the first objections he believes is he says, "Oh, clearly." Objection one, it would seem faith is not by any means a trustable science, for it's not empirically necessary, and without empiricalism, reason would fall apart. And so he responds to that objection by saying that faith is reasonable in the sense that it proceeds based on, or it is a science based on something that is unseen, ultimately deriving from certain qualities or certain things that are empirical. So, for example, if you're driving in your car and you look up in the sky and you see rain clouds and you say, "Oh, I think it's going to rain in 2 hours," well, that's a prediction about the future. You don't know with certainty that that's going to happen. You can't see that but you can still have some sort of certain conclusion that that's the truth because of antecedent evidence that is right in front of you. Or likewise, if you go on American Airlines, you don't know that the airline is going to hire someone who is an experienced flyer that isn't going to risk your life or crash the plane, but you can still trust, based on the fact that American Airlines is a trusted company, that ultimately American Airlines isn't going to get someone to fly a plane if you're going to get on a plane unless they vetted that person and done a background check on that person. And so St. Thomas says, likewise with God, even though God for some isn't empirically known, we can still know with certainty that God exists because of God's effects. He basically says we know God based on his effects.
And isn't that evidence? I mean, if we
Well,
see
it is evidence. What
see
he says is he challenges what a lot of modern atheists would eventually come to reason, which is the idea that in order for a science to be true, it has to be right in front of you. So, in order for me to uh, think that you know think some way, it has to play out right before your eyes. And he says the reason that fails and the reason why faith is ultimately reasonable is because it's ultimately derived from previous antecedents, but it relates to something that is unseen. So again, for example, if you turn on the news and you see the meteorologist says tomorrow it's going to rain, well, tomorrow is in the future. You can't see the future right in front of you at that moment, but you would probably still trust the weatherman based on his credentials as a meteorologist. And those credentials would ultimately be antecedents that would lead you to believe in something that wasn't right in front of your eyes. And so he says, likewise with God, we can know God by his effects. Like you said earlier on, intelligent design, that would be God's effects. We can know by the necessity for a first mover. We can know by the necessity that every creature that doesn't need to exist is contingent on some previous cause. We can
no,
know that.
that's totally, and that's the whole thing around. Because I don't talk very well, but I'm actually a pretty good designer of landscapes, gardens, competitively speaking, also. And it takes even the simplest things to really know it. You've got philosophers. No, no, don't talk to me about how nothing can. And even you had that, and my Richard had a debate with the atheist Mark Reed, nice guy, but he's like, with the whole the thing that you just mind-boggling to think that there's no no concept of how to really do it. Well, we think it's this, so that's science. No, science is not just thinking. Well, in I talked about that earlier with Richard, where as soon as somebody says, "Well, it could have been this, it could have been that, it could have been whatever," you're outside of science. You're outside. And then with our things, you come up to a scene and somebody's dead there. They got there's a gun in their hand and three shots in their back. And yeah, that's the gun. Whoa, that's the gun. We ballistically showed those bullets came from that gun in that guy's hand, and he's got three or four bullets in the back going straight into it, not down, not And you're going to kind of think, that guy did it then, because the evidence that's in his hand, the evidence that the bullets, that's the gun, so he had to be the shooter, and you'd have to say, well, you know what? That's probably not the right evidence. There was probably an unknown shooter that actually did it. There was somebody designing behind that murder, And when you look at that with evolution, that's actually what they got. Um, is maybe this, maybe that. Richard, what are you showing us here?
Scientific method. That's what you've been talking about. Um, so basically, what it is to demonstrate science is more than just thought. It starts out with thought, right? Your observation, your question, then you move on, research the topic area, and then you come up with a pretty good hypothesis, and then you test your experiment, and you analyze the data, and then you report your conclusions, and then you repeat. This is set up so anybody can prove it, and this is how you prove a scientific theory. So, with the Big Bang Theory and the origin of the universe and abiogenesis, they're missing the fourth part: test with experiment. They've got the hypothesis, but it's never been proven, and they prove it as its fact, or they teach it as its fact. And like I talked about with Mark on the debate, where is the scientific evidence for God? I will admit that how do you define the spirit, or how do you scientifically predict, or how do you scientifically prove what the spirit is? Like, I don't think, I don't want to say it's not possible, but God hasn't, officially been scientifically proven according to this method. But neither has the self creating universe. And we both kind of got to an impasse there. Like, those are two things that I guess you are both taking on faith, that either God created the universe or the universe created itself. In my presentation, I was trying to show those are the only two options, and it's not physically possible for the universe created itself. Something using something similar like Thomas Aquinas was doing. I think one of his things talked about how motion shows that God is real, that the universe can't put itself into motion. Correct, Et?
That yes, that was the first way for the existence of God, which was motion, which was basically he takes a lot from Aristotle. His argument was there are pure acts and potent acts, which are two terms in Aristotle. A potent act is essentially something that causes another thing, but is still being caused. So you and I are human beings. We're growing, we're aging, we're changing, but we're still causing, we're still living our lives, so we're still causing motion in some way. A pure act is something that is purely actualized. It's not going to change anymore, and yet it's still causing. And so what St. Thomas says is you can have one of two things: either a God doesn't exist, and you have an unlimited series of pure acts, but pure acts, the very nature, or potent acts rather, but the very nature of potent acts is that they're caused by another thing. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. You're just going backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards and backwards. And that's not inherently in the nature of a potent act, to just infinitely exist. Or you can have a pure act, which is completely immutable, has no parts, is just pure being itself, is completely unchanged and completely eternal, and that pure act is what we call God. And so he says, because the atheistic assumption creates a reductio ad absurdum, you would have to argue the second conclusion, which is God.
How have I not read this guy's material before? Him and I have a lot of the same thoughts, it seems, and a lot of the same ideas. I should really start doing some research into this guy.
Yeah,
Uh, but no, I agree with him completely. I mean, like the entire universe being in motion, right? From like the largest galaxy down to the smallest molecule, even that table or your floor, it appears solid. Down at the molecular level, it's moving, and it'll change movement depending on the temperature and other effects and stuff like that. But if you keep following that all the way back, according to Newton's laws of physics, something had to put it into motion. It can't just act upon itself. It can't put itself into motion.
right.
Is that why God rested on the seventh day? Because he was tired? That's a lot of mass to push around, you know? I don't know. Well, he spoke it all into existence, but something had to do it. It can't just happen by itself. And I believe
Exactly. And
that
that's
also
why,
shows why that the universe cannot be infinite because it's moving. Something had to initiate it to move. So it couldn't have always just been moving.
and that's why we can deduct. And that's why, to me, I stick with the intelligence that instead of, the Christian God um, or whatever the God. So just the intelligence behind it. So with my example of somebody found uh, dead with multiple bullet shots in the back, we know by
No,
our
he threw himself off a bridge, by the way, too, remember? After he shot himself. Never mind. Bad joke. Go on, Dan.
we know by our uniform experience that that could not have happened. We know
Yeah.
what a gun does. We know that. And so the same way with the design, with the creation, we know by our collective human experience that, say, like, information has to come from an intelligence. It has to be kickstarted. The universe had to be could not have been created by itself. What created the universe had to be outside of it.
Yeah, what's the first law of thermodynamics? Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. Well, the same is true for space, time, matter, or space, time, and gravity, also, right? Well, it's here, it exists, but it's kind of in contradiction with the law. So, how did it get here, and what made it that law that we can no longer add or take away from the universe? I
Yeah.
think that's enough evidence to show that he's
And
necessary.
this is for you, ET. Claude said, "Forget studying Latin and study science." Um, it sounds like you studied some science.
Well, I've studied some science. I study a lot of philosophy. Saint Thomas, the way he understands it is Saint Thomas, uses a very scientific method. He says that there are things that are clearly above our nature that need some sort of explaining. He thinks that the ancient philosophers had a method that allowed that, but only in similitudes. But he says that faith ultimately completes where they were trying to get. So the idea is philosophy kind of, when it's rightly ordered. And when I'm talking about philosophy, I'm not talking about the post Descartes philosophy, because that, Descartes kind of made philosophy a little weird. But the pre the older classical philosophers, he says, they did a good job in the sense that they created a sort of model which allowed people to understand certain things above their nature that couldn't be just inherently proven. But he said they were only able to do it in similitudes. He says that faith and divine revelation ultimately perfected what they were trying to do. And divine revelation ultimately, essentially, kind of put the finger on the pulse of where everyone was trying to get, essentially.
No, and there's so much, and so, but still, that is evidences, and you look at it, and even though it's philosophy, you still have to um, have it make sense. You have to have it through some kind of,
Right.
and not naturalistic science method, maybe, but you still have to um, have it critiqued, have other people going, well, that part of it doesn't sound right, that part sounds thing. But again, when people start going, oh, well, it could have been this, it could have been this, like, okay, well, look at this flagellum motor again. Um, we'll critique this. I don't know if I've seen this one or not. Are we hearing this?
No, I don't hear anything.
Okay, what am I doing? We got that there. Let me try it again, see if we got it.
I can respond a little to Big Bad Mama's question here.
Okay, are you
Yeah,
hearing that though?
no, no,
Okay,
nothing. I think it's
all right.
the prominent um, intelligent design theorists believe in evolution. I believe because they haven't actually looked over or seen the evidence that contradicts evolution, which there is some of. A lot of people discredit, some of the guys because they're not accredited degrees, but um, studying and doing your own research is the same. And you'll never find a degree or a college out there that teaches intelligent design. So you have to go your own route. And of course, it's not going to be accredited when the worldview is naturalism.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you would have to you'd have to say then Darwin, anything Darwin said is discredited because he had there was no science at the time. So
Yeah, he had a degree in ministry, so you can throw all his ideas out the window according to that statement, that theory.
yeah, so and again, I just credited him for coming up with the natural selection mechanism, which we all agree with, I believe. And but let's see this one on the flagellum again. Now, and so we're here. We want to recreate a little motor like this, microscopic. We want to do it. Come on, we're smart. You're an engineer. ET sounds smart, even if it's just philosophy. But let's design this thing. Let's make this sucker work. Um,
I'm not
what
an
are we gonna
engineer, by the way.
What are we gonna run into?
Chemistry and cell biology over the last 2 or 3 decades.
Let me know if you can hear this.
In Darwin's Black Box in
Yeah, we can hear it
1996,
this time.
I can hear it.
Behe
I love
spotlighted
Stephen Meyer, by the
and
way.
made famous a number of really interesting discoveries that had been occurring in biochemistry and cell biology over the last 2 or 3 decades. And what biologists, molecular biologists, cell biologists, microbiologists have been discovering is that at the level of individual cells, there are little tiny examples of nanotechnology, little tiny machines at work. The flagellar motor is the one that Behe made most famous. It's a rotary engine that powers a whip-like tail, a protein tail that functions like a propeller.
Now look at that sucker. And this, it's super high. Of course, this is a cartoon, an animation, but it's like, look at that. How do we do that? So first, you have to have that really complex cell wall. We'll figure out why. So even the cell wall had to be created, come into existence by undirected means, because you'll see what. Plus, then how do we get that rotor motor going through it to begin with? No matter what it was, even if it hijacked something else, they're thinking now that there's another system that probably was a lack of parts, some bad mutation, or one by itself that made that got it here. But all these, there's a lot of novel parts in here.
A propeller, and it moves the bacterium through liquid, enabling the bacterium to essentially track down its food supply. And this little machine includes a rotor, a stator, a drive shaft, a U-joint, bushings, bearings, and a whip-like tail that functions like a propeller. And the machine in some bacterial systems turns at 100,000 RPMs in one direction and can reverse direction on a quarter of a turn and turn 100,000 RPM.
Okay, so I had it, man. Those little parts, we could make those out of those little copy machines. Put all the parts together, and but it's 100,000
Yeah, yeah.
RPM. What is our best?
I think jet
Mercedes,
engines move to upwards of 40 or 50,000 RPMs.
and
Close, but not quite that.
let's go in reverse within a quarter of a turn.
Right, right.
let's crank that sucker in reverse, because man, we're gonna hit something. Two planes gonna collide. So hey, let's go backwards. Let's turn that thing, and I don't think jet engine, but let's see what else in our design that's gonna make this kind of hard for us to do this.
RPM in the other direction.
Bacterial flagellum is a true nanomachine, about 40 nanometers in size. It's amazing. I mean, E. coli, salmonella, which are kind of our model systems for the bacterial flagellum, can propel the cell about 20 lengths per second through a very viscous medium, like water, to these organisms. And you extrapolate that to human scale. 20 body lengths per second, 6 foot.
I can run that fast. Come on, that's nothing big
Hey,
deal.
hey, hey, real quick. I just did a Google search on what the fastest spinning motors are. And apparently, there's some really, really quick stuff. So this is according to Google. The fastest motor of macro industrial researchers in Zurich developed a motor that exceeds 1 million RPMs with applications for compact compressors and drills. And the fastest object, nanoscale, right? Scientists at Purdue University created a silicon dumbbell that spins at 300 billion RPM. I don't know how they count that, but I mean that's interesting to see. I would love to see that in action. But just throwing that out there.
And awesome. And they, because when I first started studying this, when Behe first came out there, the highest might have been, in the thousands, not the hundreds of thousands. So again, somebody designed something to go faster. That takes some intelligence to do. And that is evidence. So our experience is that this little guy, uniformed, knowledge, all that good stuff, is that this had to have intelligence behind it. Now, again, you can say, oh, well, nature. No, that's harder. And this is a micro scale. So you're the smaller something is, it's the harder to do. And it's like, oh, well, nature did it. I'm like, well, science did it. Science trying to, come on, guys. Let's see, what else are sticking points?
6 foot person, times 20, 120 feet per second. Mark Spitz or Phelps would be setting records with this type of propulsion.
It's hardwired into a signal transduction circuit that allows the bacterium to sense changes in the sugar gradient in the surrounding liquid.
This signal transduction system is actually a short-term memory system where the cell is, if it's going in the direction of an attractant, a nutrient that it can use to metabolize, it follows that chemical gradient. If it's a repellent, it will sense that and move in the opposite direction. So it's more than just this engine.
It's an extraordinary piece of nanotech.
So it has built-in little radar system. So, there's hamburgers that direction, full speed ahead. You get there and it's like, oh no, they're McDonald's hamburgers. Get out of here. And then the stupid ones are going to go eat those McDonald's hamburgers and die quicker. But wow. So we have a little control center along with these parts. The proteins that are put together. And so you see, guys, though, why this is evidence for an intelligence. Not the almighty God of the Bible, but this is evidence that there is something out there that that put this into motion.
Technology, it's high tech in low life. And so just by spotlighting these extraordinary pieces of nanotechnology inside cells, and the flagellar motor wasn't the only one by any means, Behe, in a sense, opened up a window for people. He opened up the black box of the inner workings of the cell and said, look, this is much more complex than anything that the early evolutionary biologists had envisioned. Darwin knew nothing of this type of nanotechnology in cells, And at the very least, we've got to come up with an explanation for this.
And so, again, it's that is evidence that what's on that video. Somebody can say, can tell us where that might not be accurate, but from all my studies, that is accurate information. And again, it's science, so I can't trust it 100% because science is not infallible. So what are we going to do with this? Just evidence. You either have to imagine and have faith that all those parts could come together slowly over deep time, and which is the theory. I would kind of say, like, whoa, you might need a different theory. Man, there must be some kind of control center in the genetics that pops that thing all the parts at the same time, because come on, guys, those 40 parts plus a control system, and then again, that all that information to build the little machine is in the DNA, because those are little proteins and other little parts. So that information, the diagram, the design is in the DNA, but it's the proteins that are in the DNA in form of their design, their information has to have DNA to have them come into existence, and then the DNA has to have the proteins to actually decipher the code and bring it into existence. You don't have a chicken and an egg, you have a nothing there. Which came first? They had to be there's no way you can have a design and then something that's in that design needed to read the design. And again, that's why we're here. That's why it's like, keep, even in my stumble bumble words, is like, guys, one of these days you're gonna have to look and at least say, whoa, that is evidence that something outside of time, space, matter, and energy was clicking. Like the one evolutionist said, it looks like, and this was cosmology, I believe, looks like some monkey, some intelligence monkeyed with the fine tuning of the universe. So that is evidence. Don't you agree, Richard?
Yeah, I do. I'm getting really tired and my brain isn't functioning like it should for this deep of a conversation. I might actually bounce out for the night. I know Claude's about to come on board. I hate to leave, just as he does, but um, getting pretty drowsy, my friend. You still there, Dan? Dan, hello.
I guess that helps when I unmute. Yeah, so Claude, if you want to come in quick, because my wife and son just, there he is. I'll give you the floor, and then because I'm,
I don't want the floor.
let's put you up on top. Then how
I
do we do
want the
that?
moon. It's like
Good night, guys. God bless y'all. See
All
you
right,
later.
thanks for popping on.
Yeah.
We won't. Oh, yeah, you're the top corner, Claude. Plus, we'll actually put you as the only one. Hey, where's your cute
Oh,
little
no, I don't want to be the center of attention.
wee
I
wee.
mean, we might begin to think that the Earth is the center of the universe.
Isn't it?
No, I know that the Bible thought that, but we've
Well, I
since.
don't know where. I didn't see where it taught that, but
You better read it sometime.
uh, ET, have you ever heard where the Bible talks about um, the Earth being center of the universe?
Yeah, I know. Well, I know that there was debate about that around the time of Galileo. There were Bible verses that Galileo was getting into debates about over that.
Yeah, well, the Bible says the Earth's a circle, a flat circle, when it's a globe. So, it isn't always right, but I know you.
Well, it also says God is a chicken there, Claude, and so there
Really?
that's why yeah, he's a hen. He cuddles
What?
the people, and Jesus is a door, you know that. And so the Bible's crazy to think some person is a door. Um and But there is language, there is poetic language, there is, and that's why actually, and I think Et, you'd agree with me, even though we disagree with certain aspects of Christianity. Part of the problem is interpreting what's there, not
Right,
what's there. It's how you interpret it.
right,
And Claude, unfortunately, um, science has that same problem, because in science, though, is, as you know, Claude, it is not an inerrant discipline. Science is just information. It's just evidence.
I know. Well, one example of that is the age of the Earth and the size of the universe. So, nobody ever thought it was 6,000 years old apart from biblical Christians. But, for a while, I think it was thought to be thousands, then, millions, and then now it's whatever, how many billion. But that's as science has advanced. But the one thing it hasn't got is younger. The one thing that as science has progressed, the Earth has not got younger, it has got older and older. And the same with the size of the universe. As science, to begin, 100 years ago, probably grandparents, great grandparents' time, they thought that we were just all the stars, that was the whole lot. That was, everything. Then we discovered there were galaxies. And then we discovered there were millions, and then
Those trillion,
so,
trillion,
yeah,
trillion stars,
it's never got smaller. It's never got down to 6,000 years. It's never got.
trillions of trillions,
Yeah, and
and
that's
that's
why we know that there's time for things to evolve, which is what is needed for evolution, of course, at a major scale.
exactly, and
Everybody-
that's where it's kind of suspect that the age of the Earth, and even now it should be kind of probably tripled that, because you're good at math, and there has to be trillions of small, unguided, undirected mutations, and we know the rate of mutations that um, ain't enough time in 13 billion years, and actually it's less, because that's just when the galaxy was supposed to have come into existence, not the biology.
Does,
So
does your son, Dan, does your son look a little bit different to you? And
of
did your
course,
father look a little bit different to you? And his
of
father
course.
versus him. Yeah. So as we go on, those little changes add up. And I'd love to see, your family tree or anybody's family tree in 100,000 years' time, or even 1,000 years. I suspect it would be quite different, and eventually those differences can change species. That's just what happens.
Well, and then that's the problem of definitions, is because you're small and it's easy, and that's why I'm into the design. It's like, yeah, we'll have an easy, you look at that flagellum there, and it's like, yeah, that's easy. The how many generations before that there wasn't a tail on the little
Tell me
bacteria.
more about the flagellum. Tell me, what's it made of?
Proteins and little
So it's
building
not made of
blocks.
steel. So you can't compare it to an engine or a revving engine, can you? Because what's an engine made of? Steel.
Well,
Yeah.
some.
And
I
can
saw
the
an engine.
can the
I saw an
flagellum
engine made out of wood. Somebody carved
really?
an engine made out of
And did
wood.
it
Perfect little
run? Did it
replica.
run? What was
It
the spark plug
runs.
made from? What was the spark plug made from? Wood?
Not all engines work with spark plugs. Diesels don't have spark plugs.
So, so
Um,
you're telling me a diesel engine could be made of wood?
I'm saying a diesel engine doesn't have spark plugs.
No,
So
but you talk about engines made of wood, so I'm trying to get to where you're going with that. I have no idea.
yeah, well, what it is that having it out of a non-directed process is out of this world complex. And so again, though, Claude,
It's too complex for you to
again,
understand. I realize that. But
what's that?
it might be too complex for some people to understand, but that's no, just saying, oh, something's so complex. You sound like a certain other
No, no,
person.
no. It's not. It's that you have to have the mechanism to build it. There's nothing. So your mechanism to build this little flagellum, according to you, is unguided mutations. Now you have 45 parts, and that's just in that thing. And the latest one is that, well, those parts are not the same, but there's those parts throughout the cell, throughout the
So
little bacteria.
how does a cell how does cell make another cell? It's some sort of reproduction, either asexual
Correct.
or sexual reproduction. How does a
Yeah.
motor make a new motor? An engine make a new engine? Somebody makes it. They're totally different things, and I don't know how many times I have to explain that to
Well,
people.
see, but
Mr.
that's the
Hogan.
problem is that you're you are
Yeah,
attributing
I
something
know what I'm talking about. I know that's a problem, Dan.
well, no, it's your faith, Claude, because
Not a
you know
faith.
something simple like a diesel motor, comparatively speaking, needed engineers, needed all kinds of diagrams. And so you're saying though that the same higher complexity can happen without intelligence, but you might not know, but the diesel engine isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It is the same engines, the internal combustion, both gas and diesel,
Yeah.
same technology.
Just hold it a
Um,
minute. I just have to go. I'll come back. Yeah.
all right, sir. We might have to postpone this. My son and wife just got back, and I have a little time with them. So, Et, you got anything before we go?
No, I was just going to say one thing really quickly in regards to the Bible verses. The kind of general Thomistic model is what's known as the literal sense, which is to say that everything that happened in Scripture is a literal historical event. So oftentimes you'll hear people say like, "Oh, Adam and Eve was just a metaphor." St. Thomas would deny this. He would say, "No, Adam and Eve was a literal event, but within that literal sense, there are different types. Like you said, there can be hyperbole, there can be parables. Now, these are ultimately built on the foundation of the literal sense. For example, if someone said in language, Sally didn't eat all day and she was so hungry she could eat a horse.
Yeah,
Obviously, that's portraying a literal event. Sally gets home, she hasn't eaten all day. That's a literal event. But the statement she could eat a horse is ultimately hyperbole based on that. And that was one of the things that Galileo did argue, because I know that's mainly where that controversy came from, because Galileo remained a Christian his entire life. And so when he was arguing with certain bishops over that, he basically tried to use that kind of model to sort of reason his points.
no, and that's exactly, and that's where here at Proverbs Guys we stick to Christ and Him crucified, which pretty well is the foundation for Christianity, true Christianity, and then we can go into different things. But in the end, the ticket into heaven is the the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ for ET, for me, for Claude, anybody who calls on the name of the Lord. And so, but when you get into something like this high complexity, and then people who probably have a hard time making a Lego character or a little toy stick figure, to say like, oh yeah, I can make a little man with lines, one for his body, couple legs, couple arms, circle for the head. So of course I can draw the the best, the most famous picture, lifelike picture of a person. And it's like, no, that's kind of a big jump. Um,
Hello,
and you are back, so you got back in time.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so just saying though how the jump between, you know, I'm very good at making stick figures, little line for the body, couple for the arms, circle at the head, couple lines at the
You're
legs.
very talented. I've always thought you were talented there.
Yeah, and you know it. And
Yeah.
and but I got it in my mind, it's like now I can do the Picasso or do something that Michelangelo did, and it's like that would be all in my brain. That would not be true. And so when I hear like Claude, and we've gone back and forth, but it's like, oh well, my dad looks different than me, so that means um,
If it
10 million,
happens enough,
100
yeah.
million years ago, then my great 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 great
Was an
granddaddy
ape, probably an ape.
was a little pond scum. Um,
Possibly.
no, I mean it would. Well, yeah, but that's the problem, Claude, is because some people say, oh, Darwin himself. Oh yeah, life could have, a simple cell could have evolved out of a pond scum and in a pond, and now we know, of course, that was his lack of knowledge. And you go with anything in Darwin's besides his survival of the fittest, all that stuff that he came up with or he believed was wrong.
Yeah.
We didn't know that we had nobody had a clue that there was little flagellum motors that uh, flagellum propeller propelling mechanisms. Um, See that I'm not saying it's a motor then, but it is motor like. The evolutionists that found it call it motors. The definitions of all, like what Dr. Myers was saying, of the rotor, of the propeller, that's all biological talk. And so
Yes, well, we can't
um,
have any of this biological talk. We should really be talking about what it says in the Bible.
oh, that's perfectly. It's a little motor. God created motor.
Where does it
Intelligent.
say that? What verse did he create
God
flagellum?
created everything. All
Oh,
those trillions of
I just thought
stars.
I thought it just
As
might have been in the Bible if it was such a big deal. And on the sixth day, he created the flagellum.
Now that would have been fourth or fifth, wouldn't it?
I don't
Um,
know.
don't know when the little microscopic stuff was created. And but again, though, you downplay the Bible, but you upplay like a Darwin, who thought that life would have been simple to have come into existence. First life was this piece of cake. We don't even have to figure that out, because man, we can spit in the dirt and we're gonna have dirt and we're gonna have life. So creation, the
I
first
never
life.
heard that. But I know, I think you think God made us out of clay, is it? Or something? So I hope you don't eat off china plates, but then they're made of clay. Because you're eating
Of
your own
clay,
stuff.
but that was an intelligent designer creator.
Oh,
So
so
of
get
course he could
away
do
with it on
anything.
that basis. Oh.
Yeah, so I believe a something outside time and space and matter and energy, which we would have had to have to bring time, space, matter, and energy into existence. That entity could have probably done anything he wanted if
I'm happy to believe in your God if he proves himself to me. So what I'm going to do, I shall, well, it's very hard to find here. I shall go to a park and find some dirt and hopefully some clay, and I'm going to leave it out on my balcony of my apartment. And I'm going to say, God, come and make someone out of this, and then I'll believe you're true. And
So
then
do
you'll
you
win
now
another
believe in
soul.
God?
You'll win
come
another
on,
soul.
Come on, all the evidence I show you, you don't believe. So
Wait a
Yeah,
yeah,
minute, God is an atheist? Is that, am I getting?
I
yes,
believe that.
yeah.
If that happened, I would
So
believe.
you're making the argument from divine hiddenness. That's the argument that you're making against God, Claude.
Yeah. Well, I can't see him. Yes, I don't talk to him. I know some of you guys do. I don't know how the conversation goes, but I'm happy to, for you to tell me.
Well,
Well, I mean,
first you have
that's
to
very simple.
actually.
God is the supreme good. God is the supreme good. Therefore, when a person ultimately participates in charity, they come to know God. But again, because God is the supreme good, he doesn't fall under a category of good. Ultimately, a person can't, for that reason, a person can't, by their own nature, come to know God unless they come to know God in that sense.
Oh, seems awfully complicated. I mean, it could be just so easy. If he was suddenly to appear in the sky, everybody would say, "Wow, I'm suddenly a Christian, and I give myself to you," and all the sort. Well, most people would. Some people don't want to
But
be
that's
honored.
not what we suppose God is, or at least that's not how what the Thomistic understanding of God is. The Thomistic understanding is that God is the subject of good itself. The subject of good itself, in its classical nature, couldn't magically appear in the sky. In its classical nature, um,
Did he in the past? Did he in the past? And
well, he did under under certain signs and under certain apparitions, and obviously there was the incarnation.
I could do
Um,
with a few of those. That would help.
well, under to fully understand God and to fully come to know God, um, God does not how do I explain this? Because God is the supreme good, God does not, the only means wherein a person could come to fully and honestly know him would be by way of charity, since he is the supreme good. If the only other way if God were to, let's say, supersede a man's nature, and ultimately, let's say, force a person or program a person to participate in charity, which would be the way wherein a person comes to know God, then that would be contrary to his perfection, because the core virtue of justice is that punishments and rewards derive from freedom. And ultimately, if God is superseding a man's nature by making him participate in charity, which is how he comes to know God, then ultimately that would be contrary to God's perfections.
Oh, that's awfully complicated for me to get your head around. Yeah.
Well, that's simple, and see that and so that's why you like talking to me, Claude, because ET is kind of above your and my heads, but with God, and like when my gardens, when I best to show garden, and you come and go, man, wow, that look at how a hand grenade went off and it made that garden. Sometimes it looks like that, but other times it like whoa. So if you came and I heard you saying that, do you think I was like, oh, Claude, come on, I made this? I would just like, okay, that guy's a kook. He obviously is ignorant because God gave you the whole universe, the whole earth, and you think, oh, it just happened by chance. Why is he gonna, if you can't see the creator by the creation, why is he gonna do a little magic trick for you? Because
Well, that
that in
would be
itself,
so. If he really loves me and he wants me there to be with him, then and he shows me that he's real, rather than a figment of people's delusions, then that would be one way to do it. If
well,
I'm
it
there sitting
might,
there sober and I'm looking at, and a voice
it,
comes
it,
out in the sky and says, "Hello, Claude, you better repent because I'm going to torture you forever in hell if you don't." Then I might think twice about it.
Yeah, well, the problem with that statement, Claude, is that we have a word for that somebody keeps on
Is it?
bugging people and bugging people. Nature itself, it was enough to get my attention. we call those stalkers, and God's not the big old sky daddy stalker.
No, but I'm
So
asking him. He's not stalking me. I'm asking him. A stalker is unwanted, you know.
well, no, not necessarily.
Oh,
In
so
that,
you have a wanted stalker. All right, okay.
and so what it is though is a lot of people give the thing of like, oh, this is nice. This person's paying attention to me, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're accused of being somebody bad. So God has given the earth all this stuff I show you just straight out of biology, straight out of science. You're like, oh yeah, that happened by chance. Um, why would God, where you're, to me, like, novelly predicted things in the Bible have happened, not because I'm some good guy, not because I'm better than Claude, but, and I didn't even know it to begin with, and you call it delusional, but
Yeah.
when things happen that were predicted 2,000 years ago, personally to me,
Give me
because
an example.
the thing of the acknowledgement of sin in my life,
What?
that I'm not perfect,
So
and
that's a
then
prediction. You know, anybody,
no, the
it's not
prediction, I
really
haven't finished,
a
Claude.
good prediction, you know.
I haven't finished. The
All
prediction
right.
is because everybody, I haven't met anybody except for Big Bad Mama that said they're 95% perfect. And I do hope he was joking, but other people are like,
I'd
seriously.
go further. I'd say 99%. He's a very good man.
Yeah. Well, um, anyway, we won't go there. But when you look at that, that's pretty well not a novel prediction. People have known that forever. But when the novel prediction is that if you call on the name of the Lord, if you are honest with him, it's like, man, I can't get out of here. I'm in this dark haze. I don't see helping people. I don't see helping anything. I don't see helping myself. And then the novel prediction is that he will live inside of you. The Holy Spirit will move on in, and you will see things that you didn't see before spiritually. Say,
Well, how is that a prediction? What do you see? Are you seeing things, Dan?
yeah, I'm seeing that
Which
I
can be
wasn't that
help.
nice guy
It
that
can
I
be help.
thought. And I can make a prediction that you're not that nice either.
Oh, well, I know. I got to give credit where credit's due, but I don't think those are predictions. No, telling me, for example, that tomorrow the planet Mercury would collide with Venus, well, that would be a prediction, and if it happened, I think, wow, whoever came up with that knows stuff. But not saying that people are sinners. That's not a prediction, you know.
No, that's not the
Well,
prediction. It's the
It's not.
aftermath after that. It
Yeah.
is the, seeing myself and knowing that I didn't understand much. And then I didn't even know that the
Yes,
Bible
I could see
predicted
that.
I would be, and you know that, but spiritually, I didn't even know that it was predicted that if I just trusted in God, put myself to the Creator, not saying like, oh, you need me, I'm this good guy. Oh, if you make a little turtle out of the dirt, not even that. If you even make a little frog out of the dirt, I'll believe in you, but I'm not going to believe. That is a novel prediction that somebody then will see spiritual things that didn't see it before, and that's millions upon millions of people. Et, didn't you have that experience that
yeah. Yeah, and that is something that is talked about in the Summa Contra Gentiles, is that, Christianity, he says, when we're trying to figure out which faith is true, we ought to look to which faith ultimately completes the natural law. And when we look at something like the teachings of Jesus Christ, even skeptics of Jesus Christ don't, by and large argue that there are contradictions between natural moral law and the teachings of Jesus Christ. In fact, many secularists have actually claimed that the Sermon on the Mount was the bedrock for modern ethics. And again, you compare that to something like, Islam. In Islam, there are very clearly things that are contrary to natural law, like polygamy, There are, scientific studies that show that polygamy is, damaging to families. In Mormonism, there are clearly things that are contrary to natural law. But in Christianity, we see a complete harmony with natural law and natural moral law. And so we can scientifically conclude that based on that, that is the most befitting.
Well, I don't think it was too in harmony with natural law when Christians were killing people for not converting back in the time of the Crusades, in the time of the Inquisition.
Well, I would
I
argue
don't
many
see
of
that
the
Christianity is any particular
well,
high standard, too much
I would say
different.
many of the Crusades were justified because Europe was going to
Oh,
be
right, okay.
taken over by the Turks, and you'd have a knife to your head if you
That's how
didn't
they
say Allahu Akbar. But I mean,
that's how they
it's,
feel about
that's not the
Christians.
worst thing in the world is having a knife to your head and being forced to say Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, I would
Um,
actually, because I, of course, in school was taught that the evil Christianity, but it would have been cut and dry if those crusades started in Turkey, but they actually started in France. So and bang, Claude, you'd be most likely in a temple going, man, Ali Akbar or whatever they say.
Well,
Um,
and
um,
so would you, Dan. If you were born in India, you'd be reciting the Hindu scriptures. If you were born in in the
Well,
times
that's
of
good, but not
ancient, you'd be going for Thor. You'd think Thor was real, or Jupiter, or Zeus, or you know.
And novel prediction, Claude, is that if you there is evidence and there is intelligence. So there's a lot of
I've yet
people
to
in
see
India
right,
that
and also, as many people have pointed out, there is a great deal of harmony between the Greek philosophers and the later Christians. Aristotle, talked about the need for a first mover. Plato said thousands of years before Jesus, or not thousands of years, but couple hundred years before Jesus walked the planet, he said if a truly good man existed, he would be tortured, beaten, and spat on, and humiliated, and finally he would be crucified. Those were his words. So there was a great deal of continuity, and they were all in pagan countries. So the fact that they kind of had some misgivings about paganism, even though they lived in pagan countries, I think is more evidence that Christianity is consistent with the natural law.
now, and I don't know about that, Claude. I'll go back to the thing with the Crusades. Though your main point was is that there was atrocities, but again, not novelly, because that we won't go there on that. But it was predicted there are people with false doctrines. There are people that will turn. Jesus said that the Jewish leaders were followers of Satan, and what they put him to death. So just because, and but there's, I've said I'm a Christian, I'm confessing Christian, but if we go out to dinner one time, we meet up, hey, let's go out to lunch, and you see me starting to you know, hit on the people there that are serving, hitting on you. You see me in a back room eating the brains out of some another person. You're probably going to think, I think Dan is really not a true Christian. And so people that have done horrible things, yeah, it is actually in the scripture. Watch out for those people. If they're murdering, because it says, Jesus said, thou shalt not murder. And so if you see people murdering, they're probably not that good of a Christian, even if I would say not a Christian at all. But see what I mean, Claude? That, yeah, we can actually even go into modern day, more deaths in last century from people who confess there was no God. And you look at that, and it's like the difference is that we have a moral standard to go back to. It's like, ooh, you're calling yourself a Christian and you're murdering people. Or in Corinthians, where the guy was had married his stepmother or his mother. I don't,
It's
his
okay
father.
if God told him to, apparently.
No, no, on that, no. Paul said, don't, let that guy out of the. Don't have any fellowship with that person, delivering him to Satan, that his body might be destroyed, but his spirit go redeemed. And so, yeah, Claude. So I know you use that, but then you'd have to say the difference is we have that standard. Good old Mussolini. Now he was probably Catholic, but I don't think so. But you go into the Soviet Union or China, Mao. They had no reason not to kill people because they didn't believe in a god. So it was their culture. It was their tribe. And you had Lenin and Stalin. What did they do? It was wrong. They starved millions of people because those people had the audacity to think they should own their own farm property. Let's starve those puppy. Let's take the food they produce and starve them because they're against the good of the Soviet Union society. So, Claude, and I would not put you in the category of an atheist like that. Um, you know, a God denier, the evidence for God denier, there is differences. But the problem is that an atheist can have their own moral standard and starve millions of their own people if they feel like it. Where in Christianity, that's kind of
No,
frowned upon.
they did worse. They wiped out people. They killed people. The women,
Claude,
children were wiped off the face of the earth. That flood
Claude,
of Noah's must have killed people, didn't it?
Claude.
Yes,
So that
yes.
that was worse than it was either Lenin and Stalin. I don't even know which one did it. That they starved what 78 million. How what the number? There's millions of people, men, women, and children. They
Well,
forced them. They
people got
forced
drowned
them.
in Noah's flood. Remember?
The
Well,
what?
it's a silly, silly non sequitur argument. I mean,
Yeah.
were there
Brilliant
evil
argument.
things that happened during the Crusades? Oh yes, absolutely, as is typically the case, even in the most justified of wars. However, did the Bible ever command those things?
It
Um,
demanded that people be
Challenge you to
killed.
show me
Yes.
evidence where the Bible commands those things. If a person goes out tomorrow and says, if someone goes out tomorrow and then, murders an innocent man and says, "Well, I did it because I think it would make Cloud happy," and clearly it doesn't make Cloud happy. Does that mean that Cloud is now responsible for that person dying? No, because Cloud never taught or professed that ideology or that practice of killing that person to be morally justified.
Well, here we go. Then I heard the Lord say to the other men, show no mercy, have no pity, kill them all, old and young, girls and women and little children. This is from Ezekiel. Fill the courtyards with the bodies of those you killed. Go! That's just one of many. So, no, you can't sort of put that on me that somehow it's these horrible atheists.
Now, Claude, I'm from Northern California, and we're 49ers football team and the San Francisco Giants, and if they go down and play L.A. Rams, well, back in the day, L.A. Dodgers back in the day because they've moved or whatever. We were going to annihilate those guys. We were going to annihilate those Rams, and we're going to wipe them off the face and their fans too. It's called hyperbole. But on that, and then you go farther
Doesn't
in
look
the
like hyperbole to me.
what so you think that well, actually it would have been the other way around because we always got trumped. You believe that 49ers got massacred literally by the LA teams?
I don't know what
No,
the 49ers are. Sorry, I don't
it's
know.
a football team. That's what I was saying. Sports. It's a American football, and say that all the time. We're going to cream those guys. We're going to annihilate them. We're going to make them
Yeah,
bloody on the field.
there's
Um,
nothing to do with what I've just read. Absolutely nothing to do with it.
well,
He was
because
telling people to kill
so
people.
There
And it
is.
wasn't beat them in sports. It wasn't beat them in camel racing or ass riding. It's just nonsense.
We have the same thing in our society. We're going to wipe out, the Japanese or the Chinese. I mean, the Japanese or the Germans during World War II. We're going to wipe them out. We're the good guys. So we're going to go in there and we're going to annihilate them. And no, we didn't. We won the war
I thought
some
you
way.
did. You're fair, but
But
but it was on. To be fair, it was on both sides. It was,
and so yeah,
certainly
so
not.
but that's the problem, is that one of those peoples that were annihilated, or they were told to annihilate, um, were the ones that sacrificed babies, and they also did some very unsanitary things in their worship, which in today's culture, if you did that, it's like, oh, we know those diseases that happen, genetic diseases that can happen with unsanitary conditions. So think the God of the universe might know that hepatitis A, B, C, D, and F happen with unsanitary things. And when you're defecating on as part as of your worship, you got thousands of people. Whoa, let's do this to the God, so that way we'll have
I've
good.
never heard of anybody defecating for God. I mean, it's a sort of stupid thing that some of these real fundies would come up with, but
Well,
I've
this
heard
is
them laughing for God.
Well, I have an entire video. I have a video called "How Catholics Deal with Controversial Old Testament Verses." If you're interested in watching it, and I do go over a lot of the kill this person, kill that person, and I go over those verses.
Ah. Oh, well, you put it in a link somewhere. I will try and look at it sometime. It's
Sure,
very
I'll get that up. I
I don't
can
know
put
if you
that
can put
maybe
it
in
in
a
a link.
back chat or something.
Because when I go to sleep tonight, I often look at these things while it helps me.
Oh, did you see the Dancing Dan one?
Oh, no, I didn't. That would be good. I
Oh my
like
gosh.
dancing. Dancing Dan is one of my favorite characters of all
Go to
time.
the Proverbs guys, and Stephen did a short on Dancing Dan, and I can't even move that way in my dreams, but he put it into, and it has to be true because I watched it on YouTube.
Oh, well,
Man,
yes.
I could have some good moves.
Oh
There's
dear.
private. Here's a private. I'll put the link in the private
Thank
chat.
you. Yeah, then I can.
I'll put-
Um, what time is it where you are, uh, Dan? Is it late at night or not?
We're 9:30 p.m.
oh, it's
Oh,
really late for me. I got to get off soon.
it's
You
12:30 p.m. here.
so noontime.
Yeah, it's right.
So I got to
I'm
figure it out now because
about to
with the
have
daylight savings time, I got the it's my time here, and then I'm -3 or add 4 or something to get to you guys in the Philippines and Singapore, so I don't bother people too
yeah.
early or late.
Oh,
Anyway, so yeah, we'll end up. But the last is that picture up there, Claude. So God gave you that, or so that's in existence, and if you think that happened undirected, that that's on you, and this is microscopic, so this is just something we have that nowhere in history ever was able to see before.
yeah.
And it's like, wow, the complexity, and yeah, and that's why this is evidence to me, and evidence of a designer, and you can say this is evidence that it came about by chance. um, and that's why we're here, just to give the evidence. But anyway, thank you guys. That was fun as
It
always, Claude.
was. I have to say, I enjoyed our talk. We have a different opinion, but we can talk nicely and have a
Yeah.
little bit of fun. The odd
How
little.
dare you, you evil bunny rabbit!
And then Claude is the only guy I could call a jerk, and he can call me whatever. And
I'm about to go and throw myself in the
You French,
Jimmy
just
Poodle, French Poodle.
well, what's that little gigolo thumbnail picture you have?
Oh,
You little French
oh,
gigolo clown. You listen here.
I'm not. I mean, that my thumbnail is like a typical French. Funnily enough, I don't look too much different, except I don't wear a beret nowadays. I have in the past worn a beret, and I've even carried a loaf of breadstick. You know. So,
no, we know you're a cute little French
oh no, I'm not cute.
miniature poodle.
Uh,
But you've seen my picture, so you know I'm not miniature anything. Um,
well, no, you're not a big. You're not overweight or anything. You know. You're,
that's why I work so I can eat more. Yeah, I have one brother that was he stopped telling us at about 400 pounds.
oh my
And
God. Okay.
yeah, he was the skinniest of us all. He was a cook and a good cook, but he didn't eat too much of his food until he stopped cooking.
Well, you
And
know, have you heard that saying? Never trust a skinny cook. So
I
he was a good cook if he was put on a bit of weight. Never
once he
trust
got
a
there.
skinny one.
Yeah, I think he was when I worked with him out at the Bohemian Grove. He was a little bigger, so maybe that's
Oh,
why he had to do it so he could so the rich people could think he was a good cook. But
yeah.
they never complained. But I always thought it's like, man, you guys, those rich guys, they were down to earth because it's like I sure would have eaten better, but who am I to know what a better is? Although we ate pretty good.
So Dan, you're going to do another show next Sunday, your time,
And
is
it'll
it?
be later. We're
Yeah,
gonna.
and put the time in there and stick to the time.
I know, Steve, and it's like,
Then
Dan, don't do that because it bugs Claude. So, but no, I'm gonna try
I
to.
can plan my day around, like if I want to come on, then I
No,
can,
and
try and time it right. So just whatever it is, just you can choose. You're the boss, but just then if you can make it on that time, it's really good.
yeah, thank you, Claude.
Thank you,
I
and
know.
people in the chat too, and Robin and Easton Thomas. Is that how I say it? Yeah.
Yes, Eastern
Yeah.
Thomas.
Okay, thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
God bless y'all. We're out of here. If I get this right thing, come on. We got music or layers. Got to push the right button. Here's our ender. Oh, look at this. I like this.